Okay. Do you have to accept that? Yeah.
Yeah, I had to accept it. So
You are now being recorded. It's sort of creepy when
it's,
that comes up. It's
it
kind of
kind of
weird.
is. I don't know why nothing's changed since the last 2 seconds we were talking.
All right. Well, this is our second Reloading Room Confessions, and I have with me Michelle Adams. And welcome, Michelle.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Michelle's been shooting with us at our group for how long you been coming out now?
Since 2018, I'm
Yeah.
a
Okay.
pretty new shooter.
So going on close to 3 years now of sort of competitive level shooting.
Yeah, 3 years competitively. I actually used your club to learn how to shoot 600 yards. So
Oh, wow. And what's your discipline of choice? I know you're not an F open shooter like me, so what is your actual discipline that you prefer?
might shock you, but air rifle.
Air rifle. Wow.
But
And
the one that I'm most successful in is a high power service rifle, and
excellent.
that's why I've got all this. It's not to make pellets or anything.
And for those that don't know and maybe want to go look it up, service rifle it falls under sort of what we sort of generically call sling shooting, right? There's a couple different forms under sling shooting.
Yeah, and air rifle and small bore also use the sling. So for getting into a high power sport, it was one that translated well from those other two disciplines.
That's very cool. And so one of the things that's probably hard for an F class shooter to admit, and you probably won't ever hear me say this anywhere else, is that I personally believe sling shooters are better shooters. I think at their core, it's fundamentally, I think they learn better techniques without the aid. I'm as guilty as anybody, and so I watch people like you come out and shoot, and the discipline that it takes to shoot, either a very low power scope or open sights at 600 to 1,000 yards and achieve amazing success. It's honestly a little daunting. I've done it one time. I hit a pretty decent shot, and I said, okay, I'm done.
Want to quit while you're ahead, huh?
I'll quit while I'm ahead. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when it comes to reloading for high power, is it one of those things where there just isn't good factory ammo because you're shooting pretty standard caliber, right?
Yeah, we're shooting 223 or 5.56 through a
Okay.
wild chamber. Yeah, so
Okay.
ammo's readily available. They definitely have ammo that's good enough to shoot out of the box at 600 yards, which is
Yeah.
where we shoot prone. But it's too expensive really for that, and I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to know what goes into my reloading.
I'd probably say that we're all guilty of being a little bit of a control freak if we're reloading to some component, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And one of the biggest variables why you have to reload now for service rifle is they recently started letting us use scopes back about 3 or 4 years ago, meaning that the scores really haven't got much different, but the X count has. So we're now
Oh,
reloading for X count, and you really
excellent.
can't get the X count out of the factory boxes.
And what's the highest magnification you're allowed?
4.5 power.
Very precise.
It's basically, yeah, I don't know why they did that, but I think that's what the Marine Corps is using
Oh,
as
and so then
issued
that
or
lets it
something.
fall under
So
service rifle.
yeah,
That makes sense.
so that's when we started to be able to use them.
And when it comes to reloading, what are your components of choice? Like who's brass, bullets, powder brands? What do you prefer, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so as far as brass goes, I buy it by minimum of 1,000. I use the Lapua.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and that one's 223. And I don't have an annealing setup, so therefore I buy a lot of brass to where I don't have to anneal it as often. And when I do, I'll just find a friend. Luckily, I got a few at that 600 yard. But so the Lapua is what I use at the 600 yard line only.
Okay.
For 200 and 300 yards, I use Lake City brass.
Really?
And the reason I use Lake City for those two distances is because the targets are pretty big. And I practice with just ball ammo, which happen to have a whole bunch of Lake City brass. So that's where I get my ones fired. Lake City brasses just from practicing with the ball ammo.
Interesting. I would not have thought that. So it's just a necessity thing. You just don't have the necessity at the shorter distances.
Yeah, yeah. So it's the Lake City works fantastic for 300 yards.
That's cool.
The target's also like 3 MOA 10 rank, so it's like who can't
Oh,
hit
wow.
it? Yeah.
That's very
Um,
cool.
and then
Bullets? Who do you like
powder.
for bullet? Oh, powder. Yeah, powder.
Yeah, powder. I prefer these two. I got my Varget and my N140.
Oh, nice. Both really good choices.
Yeah, and if I can't find these, I'll get Reloader 15
Okay.
for emergency. But those are really my three. But I haven't really hit that emergency powder level yet, so I don't have a Reloader 15 to show you. And then as far as bullets go, I use the for 600 yards. I use the Berger 80.5 grain.
Yeah.
And then for 200 and 300 yards, I have to use the Sierras. The reason I can't use these at the closer distances is because you cannot load these mag lengths. They won't tolerate the jump. So you got to use the Sierra 77s, Lapua 77s, or Berger 77s. If you want to waste money, you could go with the latter two, but these work just fine.
Interesting. That's really interesting. I wouldn't have thought that. And for those that obviously we get to see your amazing accomplishments, but for those that are watching here, sort of what are some of the accolades that you've achieved, because you've gotten some pretty good success in a very short amount of time.
I started out pretty heavily practicing in 2018, like 4 times a week in high power. And I ended up winning several state championships. I took I'm reading them off the wall here, like a bronze in 2019 in Washington State, a silver at Washington State, another bronze state championship those two were Oregon, I'm sorry. So the silver and bronze are in Oregon in 2021 and 2019. For the reduced course in Oregon, I do have a gold and a silver that I have in reduced course, meaning we scale it down to 100-yard line.
Okay.
Which I don't even know why I showed up, but I did. And then most recently, in 2019, at Camp Perry, they hold what they call the Air Rifle Challenge with AR. So it's called the AR Challenge, but it's supposed to be like air.
Okay.
And, I took gold, first women's in that against several hundred shooters.
Wow.
And that one was only shot standing. So that's my only national accomplishment. But I 2 weeks ago, I did take silver at the Northwest Regionals for across the course, meaning 2, 3, 600-yard high power rifle.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and we had shooters from California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Alaska, and Canada at that one. So it was a pretty good turnout.
That's great. And so you're talking about obviously you've had some really great success in a very short amount of time, and I think it's great to show that you're really behind you is your entire reloading setup, right?
Yeah, this is all I use. Part of it is being the control freak. That's why I don't use the progressive loaders. I use the same powder drop I used as a kid. It's a hand-me-down from my grandpa.
Oh, wow. Just a good old Uniflow, right?
Yeah, just a Uniflow. It all gets thrown onto the beam scale for 600 yards anyway.
Okay. So I mean, you literally are looking here. It looks like you've got just a trickler. You've got the rock chucker.
Yeah, I've got a.
Yeah, walk me through what you got here.
So yeah, let's see here. Yeah, so I got the rock chucker here. Or no, everything's mirror mode here. Yeah, so the rock chucker, the Uniflow, and then what's most shocking is my powder measure. It's just like a $30 Lee powder beam scale.
Huh.
And I modified it a little bit, but you would not think that this cheapy beam scale would have regional and national and everything else championships behind it. Actually, one national record too.
Oh, serious?
I think, yeah, 2 national records.
Wow.
But they're at that 100-yard line, so they don't really count.
Hey, you know what? Someone taught me a long time ago, don't diminish your accomplishments.
So what I did with this powder measure is I actually taped this anything that moves really is taped.
Okay.
And I have it super glued to the table so it can't move.
Wow.
And my powder measure is super glued so it doesn't bump the scale. And to zero it, because everything is frozen, I make these pucks with my little weights on them.
That's
and
cool.
I do it for consistency. So
yeah.
I use all the same lot number of powders. And if I want 24.1 grains, I'll throw a puck on there and zero it at 24.1. And it's always going to be my 24.1 and not the scale 0.
Wow.
And that's my superstition why I glued everything down, is because I never trusted the scale's actual 0. And then the last part, why did I go with a cheapy scale? Well, you can look out here. I live out by the ocean.
Yeah.
And you can see my flag. It's really windy and breezy in this area.
Yeah, for sure.
And when I was loading with the more expensive scale, my RCBS one, it would just sit there and do this all day long with the breeze.
Really?
So I go to this little cheapy one, and you can see it'll just get down and dirty to the point real quick.
Wow, that's crazy. And so what was on the other side of the table there? We had a rock chucker and what else?
Then I do use this for 600 yards. I use the Hornady lock and load system.
Okay. Oh yeah.
To measure my lands, and it's real important with the burgers to seed them with this.
Okay, and that's your arbor press there.
Yep. And then I also use RCBS. I have one die that's set up. It's hard to tell if I'm even centered because I'm not looking through that. No, okay, yeah. So I got I have one that's just for mag length, and I really tighten the heck out of it down so it doesn't move.
Uh-huh.
So this is for rapid fire. Sometimes I play around with 600 round loads on this one too. I kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
This is the RCBS full length competition die set, and so I do definitely do full size sizing, which is I guess a lot different than the F-class shooters. You guys like to do the next size.
Well, we do. It depends. I'd say, obviously, if anybody's on the Eric Cortina camp, it's full length sizing. No neck sizing only. Yeah, but there are definitely some people out there who still do neck sizing only. But I will say it's definitely seems to be falling off on the favorability. There's still people that'll neck size for a while and then do a small base die after 4 or 5 firings. But I think a lot of people are just saying, like I can just go to full length, not have to worry about the small base, not worry about the growth. And but there's always going to be people on both sides of that argument. So I'm a full length sizer. Yeah. You couldn't pay me to neck size only. So.
Yeah. So that I mean, it's real basic. This is something that I would like to talk about just real briefly is I intentionally scratched up a die to test lubes.
Okay.
And my die would stick about every 10, 15 bullets I put in there. And with our CBS lube, and I was able to get about 80, 90 cases with this, with my intentionally scratched up die. So that kind of put a number as to how to measure a lube. Our CBS is 15 versus 80. So,
wow.
It was just one fun little experiment I had. Also, the reason I use the headspace checkers with all my rounds, this is for rapid fire, and that's what's going to be a little bit different than F-class, is our guns have to shoot and not malfunction. If
Yeah,
we
because
get a
you're
jam, we
cycling.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we get a jam in CMP, we don't get a redo. You just lose every other round after that.
Oh, really?
So that's the reason. Another reason why I don't use the Dillons. I've seen a lot of people lose matches because they use Dillon progressive loaders, and then I use just the hand priming tool. Because with the AR-15, if you blow out a primer, it'll get stuck in your trigger, and your trigger won't fire, and you'll lose rapid fire that way too.
I'll be honest, like I've been around people that do this, and I'm it's not a discipline that I really am into that much, but I had no idea that if either of those conditions happen, that you just stop. You don't get a chance to fix it. I'm used to, like in F class, it's I guess we're spoiled. Like if a
Yeah.
scope falls off, you can fix it. If you have a mechanical issue, you can actually replace your gun and keep shooting. Like there's all kinds of weird things in F class.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's the reason why I do these pucks for service rifle, because we only get 2 siders. We don't get the unlimited siders.
Huh.
So you got to be real consistent.
Well, it's like I said in the beginning. I think you guys, it's to watch you come out and shoot. It's a totally different world, and so let's talk about that for a minute. Something that I'll just say about Michelle is she's been such an advocate for sling shooters at my club. We're largely like a bipod and open FTR kind of group. Excuse me. And I'd say we've been growing the sling shooters more and more. And you've been such a pillar for everybody. And I'm just going to tell you, it's incredible to watch Michelle come out there, because we've had a new shooter that comes out. I won't say what his name is, but he's pretty new into sling shooting, and he's really struggled. And Michelle just gets up on there on the platform and gets him, like, okay, here, let me get you in position, and getting his elbow up, and I mean, he's and you don't take crap for anybody. I mean, he's like, well, that kind of hurts, and you're just like, just shut up and do it. This is how you do it.
You need to get your sling tighter if it hurts.
Yeah.
Part of the reason.
Yeah. So you're just getting in there and you're maneuvering, and you're like, okay, now, here's how you do this. And so I've watched that shooter just really grow. So I'm guessing you had some pretty good mentors as you were coming up too.
Yeah, I had, luckily I grew up in the Northwest. We had James Fox, which is one of the #1 shooters in the country. He shoots on the civilian CMP team.
Oh.
Eric Sundholm, which has won national trophies, I think NTI, I believe. And then Dan Lowe's been my coach. He was the 2016 Rio Olympian.
Oh, wow.
So he was my last coach throughout the COVID season. And he was mostly teaching me air rifle, but a lot of it translated.
Yeah, because a lot of people do
I was
small
lucky
bore
to
and all
have,
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm super lucky to just had good coaches. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to win national championships, win national records, do any of this stuff in such a short period of time.
So when you look back and you kind of think like, I can't believe I've only been doing this 3 years, and here's my reloading stuff, and you've obviously had some really great mentors. What's like 1 or 2, whether it's reloading or shooting related, like what's kind of the best advice you've ever been given that's really stuck with you, as you've been learning and shooting and growing?
The best advice I have is I got the saying chalkboarded on my I got a chalkboard in my bedroom, and it says perspective brings understanding, and understanding brings control, and control brings peace. And that was something that Dan Lowe taught me as the Olympian. And really, you do that. Try to change your perspectives, to try to understand the sport. Be open-minded, and you'll start to understand the sport. And once you understand it, you're not going to be nervous to shoot. You're going to feel real comfortable shooting. And in a competition, that's really whoever has the least competition nerves, the less fumbling around and freaking out. It helps me just get my perspective and get me some peace, because once you understand it, there's nothing really to be scared of. You just do your best.
Wow.
So I,
that's really great advice. I
I
like
was
that.
surprised that most of my improvements that Dan Lowe had me focus on wasn't really shooting. He had me read just psych book after psych book, and there's a lot of psychology.
Huh.
And
I mean, you
yeah,
hear
it's very
about it,
strange.
so you know,
Yeah,
I've heard people talk about it and stuff, but it's really interesting to hear your perspective on it. Um,
yeah.
wow. And what do you like when you get people obviously outside of our matches too, but when somebody a new shooter comes up to you, what do you find, especially kind of in your world with what you do? Like what do you find is sort of the biggest misconception that people come into it with?
That it's easy.
Why would they think
And
that?
then they get the misconception right after that that it's hard, and it's actually neither. You just need to kind of understand it, and when you understand it, yeah. But as far as reloading goes, in service rifle world, people who weigh their cases for anything shorter than 600 yards are just crazy. People who weigh their powder loads for 200 and 300 yards are crazy. For those two distances, I just drop it in. You have to take a really bad load to make it, like I said, it was a 3 MOA group at 300 yards.
Yeah.
A grain or two of powder isn't going to throw you out, or a tenth of a
That's
grain.
that's like so crazy, you know, to think about.
even
Um,
even our 600 yard target is almost 2 MOA. It's
yeah,
10
that's
inch
true.
10 ring, I
Yeah.
believe, at 600 yards. So we're not, your X is our 10. So a
Yeah.
grain or two isn't going to matter at 600 yards either. So um,
Yeah,
it's
our
not.
10 is your X, right? Our 10 is your X. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Your 10 is my X. Yeah.
yeah.
So we could be a grain or two off.
That's
Um,
crazy.
which is another reason why the Lee scale works just perfect for service rifle.
So, is there any, you know, obviously you're very comfortable with the equipment you've had. Is there any part of the process, you know, since you've really become competitive that you've gone, hey, I used to do this. I just never saw a point for it. Obviously, you just talked about powder, but like an actual piece of machinery that you used to do, or is this
Um,
pretty much the same as you've done for the last 3 years?
the one thing for service rifles, I stopped tipping my bullets.
Okay.
I used to tip them. I don't do that anymore.
Okay.
Um, and there was that I did used to weigh my powders for 200 and 300 yards. I don't do that.
Okay. You just do coarse
Um,
powder charges and that's it.
yeah, I just drop them in.
Yeah.
600 is really the only one I got to get real picky about and measure the ogives and everything on.
And so,
For service rifle, I stopped actually weighing my sorting my burger bullets. I'll sort my Sierra bullets, but burger I don't I stopped sorting at 600 yards.
okay.
They
It
for
makes
our
sense.
purposes they work really well no matter which one you grab. So
Yeah.
and that
And
might be shocking because
I don't, you know, like statistically, if you look at the math behind it, there's virtually no reason to sort a bullet unless you're going to point it or trim it, you know. So
okay.
I don't think you're that crazy personally.
Okay, so that's why it might work.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Okay. So
yeah.
if you're comfortable with what you have, do you have like is there some piece of machinery where you've kind of been like, man, someday, you know, if
In a
I could have
kneeler.
something. An annealer, okay. Even
Yeah.
like a bench source, like a flame annealer kind of thing, or do you really have your
Oh,
heart set on like an amp or?
I had my heart set on an amp. I don't know if you still have to give one out to the gods with that, but it's kind of the one that
Yeah.
I've been one day I'll own it. So I don't I do feel guilty. I mean, and I'm shooting more and more brass, so having friends do it's just inappropriate at some point.
Well, if you ever want to bring it over to me, if you've got the pilot, I'll run it through my brass feeder and I never have to touch it. So
Yeah, I saw your setup. That thing is fancy.
yeah, you're welcome. I'm I'm happy to use it if I can run it for you. So
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
uh,
Yeah.
that's really cool. So
Uh,
what's next on the horizon for you? Obviously, you've had some great success locally and on national stage. You have big matches coming up. Do you Like what's sort of your next achievement that you're
Man,
after?
can't prepare. I really want to win the president's match, or get the top 20 of the president's match. They have a shootout. The president's match is probably the most nostalgic match that NRA holds.
When is it?
So it's held at 2, 3, and 600 yards. It's shot standing. I believe I can't remember. They took out one of the rapids. I don't know if you do rapid sitting or rapid prone. I think you do standing at 200, rapid prone at 3, and then 20 shots at like 600 yards. And so you don't shoot a whole lot of ammo, and you don't get any siders. You just have to, and it's held at Camp Perry during nationals.
Oh wow.
And so if for service rifle people, it's the Super Bowl of high power
When is that? What
of
time of year?
competitions. Yeah, that'll be held August 2nd, and I just got a new job, and I'm really hoping it doesn't interfere, but I
Oh
will pay
no.
like $1,000 for a red-eye ticket the day before if I have to fly.
We all have our priorities.
My other dream is making the U.S. Air rifle team someday.
Oh
And
wow.
yeah, and I know that it's kind of unrelated, but this is my little shooting range indoors for air rifle.
Okay.
And I get my whole setup here, and this is what they call the SCAT system.
Huh.
To
Oh, that's
where
one of those lasers.
it's like it's not necessarily a laser. It's actually a computer sensor that
Oh
finds
wow.
the black
Okay.
dot on the wall. And
Huh.
yeah, and then this is like my little trophy wall.
Oh, look at that, your wall of fame.
Yeah, for 3 years.
So that you get to practice indoors, rain or shine. You just sit there and plug away, and it really gives you good feedback, and you feel like it really helps improve your shooting.
Whoops, I lost you. Oh, there you
Oh,
go. Yeah. Can you still hear me?
oh yeah, you're good.
Oh, cool. My screen went black for a sec. Yeah,
You're
I
fine.
could totally. Yeah, it definitely helps the offhand. I train with it only really for standing position, which luckily you guys don't have to practice for because it's difficult.
No, but man, let me tell
But
you, laying on your stomach all day, it's a workout.
not even holding your own gun up.
You know what's
I
funny is I remember when I first started doing F class, I was a little heavier, and when I first started laying prone, I had trouble breathing, like from a pulmonary standpoint, and
oh
I actually,
jeez.
yeah, I know, right? And I actually had to get a piece of foam, and I would lay on a piece of foam because I would get short of breath, and that was like my stupid wake up call to say I got to start losing weight. But I mean, I really did notice it, and you'll see guys. I'm not the only one. I've seen guys out
Yeah,
there, and they'll put like little wedges under them or little pillows, and same thing. Like they have trouble,
they're just trying to, yeah, just let their lungs inflate. Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah. So luckily,
Yeah.
that doesn't happen to me anymore. But you'll see somebody go out there who doesn't shoot, and it doesn't necessarily mean that if you're heavy, you'll have that problem. It just means that
Yeah.
if your body's not used to it, right? And so, I mean, you're a nurse, so
Yeah,
uh,
exactly. One of the things
um,
that happened to me is when I sit in sitting position cross-legged, I have a hernia that pops out and it really hurts. And I just
oh,
gotta fire through it and then push it back in. I gotta get it fixed.
oh man,
But
that's
yeah,
horrible. Oh,
so I get it. Sometimes medically there's just things that get in the way.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
Uh,
So
well,
that's kind of my setup here.
I can't thank you enough, Michelle. Like I said, we love having you out at the club. I think you've been a huge inspiration for any number of people.
Oh,
You,
thanks.
you're such a free spirit, and like there's people that come out that you can tell have like, I don't know. I don't want to say like, there's just shooters who enjoy themselves, and you're one of them. Like I can just tell you
Oh,
come
it's
out Yeah, I love your backpack, by the way.
Yeah,
Every time you come out, I
it's
laugh.
this one's just my sponsors.
So who do we got?
Um,
Who's your
so,
sponsors?
so the Stay Center, Medford, Oregon.
Okay.
Um, they parkerized a rifle or Cerakoted my rifle for free. That rainbow colored one, that
Oh,
color
nice.
scheme like this patch.
Yeah.
I got the pink pistols, which kind of is related to armed equality.
Yeah.
They're my only like international one. They're LGBT friendly or not friendly activist group to try to get more LGBT people shooting.
Excellent.
I couldn't find my patch, but Astoria gives me boot and gear. If I need
Excellent.
some gunsmithing, they do it for free, and they will do it like while I'm waiting.
Oh, wow.
Same with Gators Custom Guns in Kelso, Washington.
Oh, very cool.
I build all my AR parts. I get all of them through there, mostly Arrow and Geisley. So
Very, very cool.
and having people like that really make the sport fun and really keep you pushed too. So
Yeah.
it's
And
not
you
just
obviously feel a
sponsors,
little
it's supporters.
accountability to them too, right? Like these guys go out
Yeah,
of their way to help you, and I think you certainly live up to your end of the deal. You're consummate professional. You come out, you help the people that need it. You're what this sport's all about, and I've always
oh.
counted myself lucky to have you as one of the people in our group. So
Well, I've been lucky to have you kind of teach me how to reload because I've listened to a lot of your F class stuff. I've been taking your F class class
yeah,
to and kind of picked and choose pieces of it that I thought were relevant. So
yeah,
and
and that's
based
what's
off
important.
your knowledge, this is where I ended up.
Yeah. No,
So
I think like we've talked about, and one of the reasons I was so excited is that, I think it's great that people understand that you don't have to have a lot of money to reload great ammo, to shoot and to win, and you are a perfect example. Everybody spends money on equipment for different reasons and different needs.
yeah,
And it's like, look, I know you don't have to reload with that stuff, but you choose to reload with it because it works for you. And
yeah,
that's really what's important. So I'm glad people get to see that somebody can achieve the success that you've had, that they can sit there and go, okay, wait a minute, I've got a rock chucker, I've got a uniflow. Let me focus on doing the things that matter with the tools that I have, and then look to the future. And so I think from that standpoint, like I said, you're just such an inspiration for so many things. And
thank you.
I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. For those that don't know, she lives about, gosh, what do you live? An hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes away?
Yeah, about an hour and a half away from where I shoot every Tuesday.
Yeah. So, picture this, everybody. We shoot at 6 p.m. every Tuesday night. Um, Depending on where she's working, it's anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half from the range. And she's there. She comes, she shoots, she does what she needs to do, and she goes home. And I've never ever heard her complain, bitch, or moan about it.
No, even
And
sometimes I get the range alibi that doesn't let me shoot. I'm like, it happens, and I just go right back home and like, well, I fired one shot.
yeah, I mean, stuff happens,
Yeah,
and so anyway, I hopefully people that come appreciate. I know a lot of them do, and people will, if they see you out at the range, I hope they come up to you, and I hope they ask for some help, because I know you'll give it to them.
yeah, I'm always open to talk. So,
All right,
all
well,
right,
Michelle, it
I
was
think
awesome having you, and you coming out tomorrow night?
um, I gotta check. I do live paycheck to paycheck with lately, so I haven't signed up for it, but if it's
Okay,
not too late to sign up, I should probably show up.
whatever you want to do, we're just happy to have you out there.
All right, sounds good.
All right, have a
I'll
good
try to
night.
make it. Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye.